Yo, what's going on, YouTube? My name is James Keller. This is James Keller MMA. Coming at you guys with my first ever video. You know, we got 6 weeks, no UFC. I thought what better not time than to start this channel. I've been thinking about making this channel for a little bit of time now. I'm going to be making prediction content, recaps. I'm going to be getting interviews with fighters. We got a lot of great local fighters. I'm going to be doing recaps over local events and stuff that I got around my area and getting interviews with those fighters. So if you're interested in anything like that, any MMA content, please stay tuned for 2026. I'm going to be trying to be consistent all 2026. You know, I know right now the quality, the mic quality, maybe the video quality, we're getting there. All right, we're going to get there. 2026 is going to be our year. You know, we're going to take steps. And what not better first step than to look back on 2025, full recap, and give out some 2025 MMA awards. 2025 was a great year for us UFC fans. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. Started off not so hot. We had some pretty stinker cards, but we also had some great cards, End of the year, I feel like the end of the year, we're just in such a beautiful place, coming around to 2026, and also this new Paramount deal. The 3 cards that are lined up for 2026 are great. They're just amazing. Looking at them, we got Patty versus Justin, and just Volk versus Diego too, and then I'm trying to think of the other one. I can't think of the third one, but the 3 cards that we have lined up for 2026 are just beautiful. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. 2025 MMA Awards. I'm your host. Get your champagne ready. Get your bottles ready. I'll see you on the red carpet. All right, guys. So, we got 7 separate awards we're going to be giving out today. Each one of these awards hold a special place in each one of our hearts. I know it for a fact. We got 5 fighters per each category. 4 nominated fighters. 1 honorable mention. Starting it off with the hottest, most anticipated award, the one you've all been wondering. Who is the Women's Fighter of the Year? Yes. We all love these women. We all know how much these women can bring some heat to the card. Anticipated fights. Let's get straight into it. Coming in at our honorable mention, we got Manon the Beast Farad. Now, Manon Farad, 1-1 on the year. Started the year off not so hot with a loss to Valentina Shevchenko, the champ. She did get dropped in that fight in round 4, but still, had a great bounce-back KO win over Jasmine Jasudavicius. You really don't see quick KO wins at women's flyweight, especially at top 5 women's flyweight. So I think that we could possibly see Manon Farad fighting for the flyweight title in 2026, But coming in our number 1, our first nominee is Zhang Weili. Yes, so Zhang Weili, she was 1-1 in the year as well with a loss to Valentina Shevchenko, just like Manon Farad. Now, losing to Valentina Shevchenko, there's no shame in that, especially Zhang Weili. She tested herself. She tried to go up. She tried to be great, and she tried to test herself against Valentina Shevchenko, but she just fell short, you know what I'm saying? Like, that happens. She did start the year off, though, with a win over Tatiana Suarez. Now, Tatiana Suarez, coming into this fight, was undefeated. She was the favorite, which is kind of crazy disrespectful, I feel, to Zhang Weili. But Zhang Weili, 1-1 in the year. I had to give her a nominee spot on this list just because of that win over Tatiana Suarez. Our next nominee, we got Mackenzie Dern. Now, Mackenzie Dern, 2-0 in the year. Starting the year off with a finish over Amanda Ribas. Now, I know each of us were itching for the Mackenzie Dern Amanda Ribas rematch. They blessed us with the main event, of a fight night. Mackenzie Dern ends up finishing that fight. Ends her year with a title wrapped around her waist with a win over Verna Jandiroba. Now, some people say that she lost that fight. It was a close fight, but, Mackenzie Dern champ season. So, Mackenzie Dern, if you're watching this, please come on my show sometime. Our next nominee, we got Kayla Harrison. Now, Kayla Harrison, 1-0 in the year, but that one win was over none other than Juliana Pena. Now, if you're getting a win over Juliana Pena, she finished Juliana Pena at the end of round 2 with a Kimura. If you're finishing Juliana Pena, I love to see it. I think we all love to see Juliana Pena getting finished, especially Kayla Harrison taking the belt off her. We'd love to see that. Kayla Harrison, she's a big lady. That's why she only fought once in 2025. It's a tough weight cut for her, but she does have this fight coming up in January against Amanda Nunes, which is going to be a very, very exciting fight, very entertaining fight. I think that fight does a lot for the women's division, because I think the winner of that is going to fight either, he's going to fight Valentina Shevchenko, either Amanda Nunes or Kayla Harrison. So that's a super fight. And Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes is a super fight. We're looking forward to it in 2026. But no doubt about it, we got the Women's Fighter of the Year. We all know who it is. It is the Bullet, Valentina Shevchenko. Now, Valentina Shevchenko had 2 wins this year over 2 of the ladies on this list, starting her year off with a win over Manon Fiorot, ending the year off with a win over Zhang Weili. She's beating these tough ladies, top of the top level. She's doing GOAT things, getting wins in dominant fashion. She dominated Zhang Weili, dominated Manon Fiorot. I know that 6 of her last 6 wins have been decisions, but still, she is at the top of the women's flyweight, and I would like to see her in 2026 possibly go up and challenge for that double champ status against Amanda Nunes or possibly Kayla Harrison. Either one of those fights, I think, is great for Valentina Shevchenko, and I think that either one of those women, Kayla Harrison or Amanda Nunes, would take that. But we'll see. We'll see what Valentina has in store for us in 2026. 2025, though, the year of the Bullet. We have to give it to Valentina Shevchenko, Women's Fighter of the Year. All right. Coming in our next award, we got the biggest upset. This is the award that had all of us crying, all of us going, what? That guy just won? Beautiful award. Let's get straight into it. For our honorable mention, we got Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. Now, the reason that this is our honorable mention and not on the list is I feel that Kevin Holland, over the last couple years, kind of, it's just skill level's gone down. His skill level's gone down. His chin level's gone down. He's taken too many fights. I don't think he's letting himself, giving himself enough time to recover in between fights, letting his chin recover. He was 2-3 in the year of 2025, and this fight against D-Rod just kind of showed that. D-Rod went in there, kind of put hands on our boy Kevin Holland, dropped him twice in round 2. Kevin Holland did come back, though, in round 3 with a knockdown of his own. Wasn't enough, though. D-Rod did get the decision, 29-28 to D-Rod. If you bet D-Rod, he was a plus 450 underdog. So D-Rod cashed that night. And yeah, I just think that there was a point in time where Kevin Holland would have beat D-Rod. Maybe even could have finished D-Rod, but just taking too many fights, not allowing himself to recover enough, not allowing himself to get enough training, Starting off with our first nominee, we got Bo Nickel versus Reinier de Ridder. Now, Bo Nickel versus Reinier de Ridder, honestly, I felt like it should have been closer on the odds. Bo Nickel, I understand that he's a 3-time national Penn State champ, in wrestling, in college, collegiate champ. He was undefeated going into this fight, finishing dudes quick. But Reinier de Ridder was the double champ at 1FC. Coming into this fight, Reinier de Ridder was 18-2. Starting the fight off, they came out both fast, came out throwing quick, clinching up a lot. As soon as they clinched up, de Ridder was throwing knees to the body, hooks to the body. Nickel did land a takedown in round 1, but de Ridder did reverse it. Overall, though, I think de Ridder won round 1 with his overall pressure, just keeping the pressure on Bo Nickel. And then starting round 2, he kept that same pressure going on. Quick, fast-paced pressure, keeping it on Bo Nickel. Hurt Bo Nickel with a knee to the body. It visibly hurt Bo Nickel. You could see that it hurt him. And then Bo Nickel kind of just started throwing caution to the wind, just started throwing hooks. And then Bo Nickel caught him with another knee to the body, crumbled him to the ground, finished him there. That is, de Ridder cashed in at a plus 295 underdog. So I think that really just dropped down the Bo Nickel stock. not stock, but more betting stock. You know, he was always this crazy favorite because of the wrestling background, because of his finishes. But, you know, now with this loss, it definitely dropped down his betting value a lot. Okay, coming at our next nominee, we got Carlos Vera versus Josias Musasa. Now, coming to this fight, Josias Musasa was undefeated, 8-0, and Carlos Vera just came in there and blasted him with a beautiful off-balance head kick. Kind of Carlos conduct, ass hitting him with the zoo, boom, head kick, drops Musasas on the ground. Doesn't finish it there. Carlos Vera jumps on his back, sinks in the rear naked choke, ends the fight. Beautiful round 1 victory. Now, before this fight, Josias Musasa was 8-0, like I mentioned. Ended the year 8-2. Not a very good year for our boy Josias Musasa, but, you know, that's why he was the big favorite. He was a minus 800 favorite. Carlos Vera was a plus 550 underdog. Plus 550 underdog cashing in round 1. That was just beautiful. Okay, our next nominee, we got Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber. Now, Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber, we all know how Michael Johnson has this really weird ability to come into fights that he's not supposed to win and ultimately end up winning them. So, Michael Johnson came into this fight, and he came looking good. He came looking fast. You know, he was looking quick. Zellhuber was throwing kicks from the outside. He really wasn't trying to get in there and throw with Michael Johnson. And then in round 2, Michael Johnson landed a knockdown with that beautiful left hand. So Huber did survive. He got up from it, but Michael Johnson did keep landing that left hand throughout the end of the round and throughout the end of the fight. You know, in round 3, Zellhuber, kind of the same story, was throwing kicks from the outside. Didn't really want to get in there. I understand it, though. He didn't want to get caught. But, you know, ultimately lost the decision to Michael Johnson. Beautiful, beautiful win by Michael Johnson, cashing at a plus 550. Okay, coming in at our number 1 spot, though, the upset of the year, yes, no doubt about it. We got Raoni Barcelos versus Peyton Talbot. A big underdog cashing at plus 710. We all know why this is number 1. The crafty vet versus the young up-and-coming prospect. You know, we saw it in Zellhuber versus Michael Johnson, but this was kind of more highlighted because Raoni Barcelos doesn't have those wins over people like Dustin Poirier. You know, he doesn't have those wins on his record. Raoni Barcelos is kind of a sleeper. You know, Raoni Barcelos had a great 2025. Beautiful 2025 for Raoni Barcelos. And he started the year off with getting this win over Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot was a minus 1150 favorite. Coming to this fight, I understand why he was a minus 1150 favorite. He had a lot of hype, a lot of KO wins. I think he was coming off his KO win over Giannis Gaymore, I think, the French guy. But, yeah, Raoni Barcelos came into this fight. He caught one of Peyton Talbot's kicks in round 1, used that to get a takedown, control Peyton Talbot from there on, landing ground and pound shots. And then throughout the rest of the fight, kind of did the same thing. Didn't catch any kicks, but he was getting takedowns in round 2, getting takedowns in round 3, using it to get control. Control Peyton Talbot for majority of the fight. I was noticing that Peyton Talbot really wasn't trying too hard to get up. I think that he was trying to look good for the camera because there's a lot of times where Peyton Talbot was like, you know, kind of like doing like weird faces and stuff when he was on the ground when he was getting punched. I don't know. It's kind of odd. It's great to see Peyton Talbot, though, come back. Like, I can't hate on him. He bounced back with 2 wins in the end of 2025. Win over Felipe Lima and a win over Henry Cejudo, 2 wins in 2025. So we can't hate on that. 3 wins. That's how you should do it. If you get a loss in the beginning of the year, you should bounce back and ultimately fight. You know, at least try and get a win at the end of the year. But he got 2 wins, so Peyton Talbot's stock is right back where it needs to be. But, yes, that is the winner of our upset of the year. Great category, great nominees. Okay, so for our number 3 award, we got Still My Boy Award. Now, this is the award for the fighter that is still our boy. He might not have had the best 2025, but we still love him. They're still going to come back 2026. They're going to come back because they're still our boy. We love him. Starting off with the honorable mention, we got Jamal Hill. Now, if you're a Jamal Hill fan in the year 2025, it's a tough time to be a Jamal Hill fan. I'm not gonna lie. His last win was over Glover Teixeira. But people forget, Jamal Hill, Glover Teixeira. Jamal Hill was a freaking monster. All right, I'm a Jamal Hill fan. I don't think that Jamal Hill is that bad of a guy. So most people hate Jamal Hill. I don't think he's that bad of a guy. Don't think he's that bad of a fighter, honestly. He's 1-3 in his last 4. He lost to Khalil, lost to Yuri, lost to Alex, but 2026, he's still our boy. Don't forget about him. 2026, he'll come back. I have a good feeling that Jamal Hill, 2026 is going to be the year of Jamal Hill. All right, coming out with our first nominee, we got Bobby Green. Now, everyone loves Bobby Green. I feel like there is some Bobby Green haters out there, but I'm not one of them. Okay, the reason I love Bobby Green is because I have seen Bobby Green getting finished bad a couple of times. Maybe 5, 6, 7 times I've seen Bobby Green get finished bad in his career. And when you see a guy get finished bad, so bad that you just you can't help but feel bad for the guy, you start rooting for him, And this year was one of those years that Bobby Green did the same thing, He went out there and got that bad KO loss against Rufy. Watching that KO was like, ugh. Obviously it was a beautiful KO by Rufy, but I didn't know if Bobby Green was ever going to get up from that. That was a picture perfect or heel right on the top of the head. Bobby Green face planted, but he did come back with a bounce back win at the end of the year. He proved that he's still our boy, but this is what Bobby Green does. He wins a fight, wins a couple, beats some good guys, and then gets finished brutally. Okay, coming in at our next nominee spot, we got Chris Moutinho. Now, if you guys know Chris Moutinho, I'm the biggest Chris Moutinho fan out there. He's had 2 fights in the UFC, and both those fights have been not the best. Just brutal UFC career for my man Chris Moutinho. First fight in the UFC, fights Sugar Sean O'Malley, Prime Sean O'Malley, and gets straight peppered for 3 rounds. Styled on, you guys remember Prime Sean O'Malley when he was hitting the combos, the freaking, the movement. 3 rounds of getting styled on by Prime Sean O'Malley, and he did get standing finished in that fight, which they should have just let it keep going in my opinion, but whatever. He says, you know what? That is not the end of my UFC career. I'll be back. Let me get a 5-fight win streak. He got a 5-fight win streak in the regional scenes to make it back to the UFC. Makes it back to the UFC, and who do they match him up with? Malcolm Wellmaker. Now, Malcolm Wellmaker blasts his head off. One of the most brutal KOs we've seen in a minute by a 135er. Bad KO, quick 2, just, crisp, right hook, right on the chin. Face plants Chris Moutinho, and I don't think we're ever going to see Chris Moutinho again in the UFC. But he can still be our boy, We still love him. Okay, coming in at our next nominee spot, we got Beneil Dariush. Now, Beneil Dariush, you can't hate on the man Beneil Dariush. He's always with his family. He's always being super positive, always non-confrontational. He's the sweetest, most nicest guy out there. Started the year off great with a win over Renato Moicano. But like I said with Bobby Green, this is what these dudes do. They get good wins, hard wins against tough contenders. And what does that do? It just puts them in a tougher, harder fight with a younger, hungrier contender. So Benny versus Benoit Saint-Denis. If you watch that fight and you're a Beneil Dariush fan, I'm sorry for you. Benoit Saint-Denis just freaking monster left hook. Flatlines our boy Beneil Dariush. 16 seconds. 16-second KO. Literally the first punch he landed just flatlines our boy Beneil Dariush. And that's the thing about Beneil Dariush. He's not some young cat. He's not some young guy that's going to bounce back from this KO. I think that, we've seen Beneil Dariush getting brutally KO'd a couple times. He has that one Edson Barbosa KO. He's got that, Alexander Hernandez KO. And he's not that young, but he is still our boy, and we still love him, He'll come back 2026. We're going to see him back in the win column. And for our Still My Boy Award winner, we got the one, the only, there's no doubt about it, Charles Oliveira. Now, we all love Charles. I think what we had to witness at 317 as a Charles Oliveira fan is just a straight-up crime. It's not a crime that I had to witness it because I think that every Charles Oliveira fan going into that fight knew what the outcome might be, you know. I still had hope. I still had hope that he was going to win. That's when I feel like Charles Oliveira is the best, when everyone's down him. But just a brutal, brutal night for our boy Charles Dubrox. You know, goes in there against Ilia Topuria, 317. Hit with a brutal right hook, left hook combo. And the thing is, sometimes you get hit with a two-piece and it like the next shot wakes you up. The first shot slept him bad. Second shot just slept him worse. He was out cold from the first shot. Second shot just put him deeper in the shadow realm. Flat line on his back. And then Ilia Topuria gets 2 ground and pound shots on him. 2 hammer fists right on his dead carcass body. The worst thing about this fight was every single one of the TikTok edits that I had to endure. Every single time I'd open up my phone, it would just be a video of Charles Oliveira getting knocked out. You know, but still, there's no hate in this man, Charles Oliveira. I still love him. I still think that 2026 he can get some wins. Do I ever think he'll be champ again? Yes. I do. I could see a world where Charles Oliveira is champion again. But, you know, we'll just see. We'll see what happens in 2026. That is the Still My Boy Award. Okay. Now, these next 3 awards are the awards that you guys have all been waiting for. I know the first couple have been a little sad. We had to look back on the sad moments of the year. But now it's time to look back on the great moments of the year. The phenomenal moments. The next award we got is the Fight of the Year. Yes, Fight of the Year. With our honorable mention, we got Iwo Baranowski versus Ibo Aslan. Now, Ibo Aslan versus Iwo Baranowski was a crazy fight. Crazy one-round war. Everybody loves a one-round war. A one-round war can feel like a 5-round war, you know, when it's packed with this much action. Fight starts crazy back and forth from both men. Ibo Aslan gets dropped in the first 40 seconds of the fight, gets back up, drops Iwa Baranowski as he's coming in, drops him right on his face. Baranowski then gets back up. Aslan is just throwing big hooks, trying to finish Baranowski. Baranowski then catches him with a counter hook as he's tagging him. Aslan gets dropped again, but bounces right back up. Aslan was landing on Iwa, but he kept hunting for that big shot, and that's when Baranowski hit him with another counter hook. Dropped Aslan bad, and that's where Iwo Baranowski then finishes him with the ground and pound. You know, that counter hook, just beautiful. Hits him with it 2 times throughout this fight. Overall, just a crazy one-round war. Crazy one-round war, back and forth action. Both dudes getting dropped. We're coming in at our next nominee spot. We got Yuri versus Khalil. Now, yes, Yuri versus Khalil. This fight started off, both guys feeling each other out, throwing leg kicks. But with about 1:30 left to go in round 1, Khalil lands a beautiful counter hook on Yuri as Yuri's throwing a flying knee. Khalil then lands a good combo. Every time Yuri would get hit, he would just be like, let's go, like, come on. Like, let's go, like, come on. What? Come on, let's go. And every time, Khalil would just keep landing more. You know, usually when people do that, usually when people get hit with big shots and they want to, like, you know, they, like, do that where they, like, punch themselves in the head or, like, tell their opponent to keep going, they usually get knocked out. But for Yuri Prochazka, it works for some reason. Khalil won round 1, though, from just landing big, harder shots. Same story in round 2, though. Khalil was landing the bigger, better shots throughout the round. Round 3, though, came around. That's when Yuri started to put it together. Started landing the shots of his own. Started to hurt Khalil. You know, they were talking, started round 3, they were talking about how Khalil was just, like, so much out skill level on Yuri, and it was looking like that because Yuri wasn't even landing. Yuri wasn't doing too good. He wasn't really landing any combos of his own, wasn't landing any big shots of his own. But then round 3 became Yuri's round. He started to put it together, started to hurt Khalil. You could tell that each combo that Yuri was landing, it was hurting Khalil more and more. The damage, you could see the damage on Khalil's face. Yuri did a great job of mixing up the shots to the head, to the body, landing big body shots, landing big head shots. You could tell the body shots were what really was hurting Khalil. You really can't take too many body shots. You really feel those body shots, especially when they're just getting ripped to your body, especially in round 3 after you have been through 2 rounds of just straight up war. Now Yuri lands a big knee to the body in the clinch. And then Yuri just starts unloading elbows in the clinch that bloodies up Khalil's face. Yuri then hits him with a 1-2 left hook, face plants Khalil against the cage, walk-off KO, great KO win, great comeback win. Was getting outclassed kind of for the first 2 rounds on the feet. People were like, this is a Khalil Roundtree fight. But I had my faith in Yuri Prochazka. That's kind of what Yuri Prochazka does. He gets beat up until he wins. And that's what he did in this fight. It was a beautiful fight watching Yuri come back. Beautiful combos. Watching Yuri land his signature, weird combos, unorthodox combos is just something beautiful. It's something awesome to watch. But coming in at our next nominee spot, we got Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval. Now, yes, some people say that this should have won Fight of the Year. A lot of people had this at their Fight of the Year. All-out 3-round war. Now, the reason that it didn't win Fight of the Year, I really just felt that it was a power versus output kind of fight. Watching this fight, it was a beautiful fight, don't get me wrong. It was a great fight. But as this fight went on, you could just tell that everything that Brandon Royval would land, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punches, and then Joshua Van would land a couple, and those couple would do way more than the 5 Brandon Royval would land. It was just a power difference. Joshua Van's got crazy power for a 125er. Both men, though, Royval landed 216 strikes. Joshua Van landed 209. Just a crazy war. End of the fight, though, late in round 3, Joshua Van landed a big knockdown that I think secured him the fight. But nevertheless, an all-time banger fight. And I think that this fight, this year, Joshua Van, Pantoja, all these things together is really just boosting the flyweight stock so much. People are really getting behind Brandon Royval. He did just get knocked out against Manel Kape in the last event of the year. But still, people are getting behind Manel Kape. I think that flyweight stock is just really going to the moon, especially with Joshua Van and Brandon Royval putting on this 3-round banger war. Definitely an all-time classic Fight of the Year contender. But it's not the Fight of the Year because the Fight of the Year number 1 spot, we got Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva. Now, yes, coming into this fight, I never really understood when my homies would be like, I got, I don't know who to choose. I love them both. You know what I'm saying? I would just be like, pick a fighter. You know what I mean? There's always one fighter you like more than the other. But this was a fight that I actually started to feel that. I was like, oh my gosh. Why would they make this fight? Why would they make Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva? They're both awesome, and they both don't need to get knocked out. I knew one of them was going to get knocked out. I really love Diego. I really love Gene. I think that Diego's one of my favorite guys in the UFC right now. And same with Gene. I don't want to see either of them lose. But the fight starts. Both of them were landing. Gene landed a beautiful front kick. I don't know why, but Gene was just so pissed off this whole fight. He was trying to knock out Diego from the beginning of the fight, throwing everything with bad intentions. Diego, though, gets a takedown. After he gets blasted with that front kick, he gets a takedown in round 1, where he starts landing 12-6 elbows right on the top of Gene's head. A couple of them cut him up, but we really didn't see how bad those elbows were till after the fight. And Gene Silva's head was all freaking bubbly and all rocky. It looked like he was in the microwave or something. But either way, Lopez landed some more ground and pound on Silva. Silva gets up. They both start swinging. I was real nervous for Diego because every single time, like I said, Silva was swinging. He was swinging with bad intentions, big meaty combos, big meaty hooks. Big kicks, big elbows. They were throwing crazy elbow combos, crazy kicks. He was landing on Diego. Diego was cracking him too, though. Don't get me wrong. Diego was landing himself, but the reason that I felt scared for Diego was because Silva was the one that was pressuring him. Silva was the one walking him down. Diego does get a takedown, though, late in round 2. Doesn't lead to much, though. Silva gets up, starts swinging, throwing heavy combos, lands a big right hand on Lopez with 30 seconds left. Doesn't really affect Lopez, though. Gene Silva throws a spinning elbow that misses. Diego's on the back foot, backing up as Gene Silva's coming in. Then Diego throws a spinning elbow of his own, a counter spinning elbow, catches Gene right on the cheek, sits him down. Diego then hops on him, finishes him with ground and pound. Overall, the reason that this was my fight of the year over Van and Royval, just because of I really didn't know who was going to win this fight. I didn't know. It was, starting the fight, I thought, oh, maybe Diego was going to win it. I thought, oh, maybe Silva was going to win it. Literally, it was a back-and-forth fight of who I didn't know was going to win until Diego landed that elbow. And it was a beautiful knockout, beautiful elbow. Great finish, great fight. Action from the beginning to the end. That's why I have this at my fight of the year. Overall, some great year of fights. We are on our final 2 awards. I know this video has been a little bit longer, but I've enjoyed looking back on the year. I've enjoyed watching these fights back. It's been a great year. Hope you've enjoyed watching this video so far. Let's get into the last 2 awards, the final 2 awards. These 2 awards really are the ones that shaped the year, I feel like. And the next award we got is KO of the year. Yes, KO of the year. Now, for our honorable mentions, we got 2 honorable mentions, actually. We got Keelan Salicod and Carlos Prates. Both Keelan Salicod, I hope I'm saying his name right, and Carlos Prates had great knockouts. Salicod with his beautiful head kick knockout over, what's his name, Nasrat Hasparat, yeah. And Carlos with his beautiful spinning elbow. I just think that both these guys, I think that head kick was great. It was the best head kick we saw all year, I'm pretty sure. Like just straight up head kick. And the spinning elbow was beautiful too. It was one of the best spinning elbows we saw. But we just got a couple better KOs, I feel. Coming in our first honorable mention, Elijah Smith versus Toshomi Kazami. Elijah Smith versus Toshomi Kazami is our next nominee. Now, this KO was just amazing to see. You don't really see a lot of slam KOs nowadays. And in 2025, we were blessed with many a slam KOs. And this one was the best. Elijah Smith picking up Toshomi Kazami over his head with a beautiful over-the-head power bomb. Slams him straight through the mat. One of the most exciting KOs I've seen in a minute. I just love to see a slam KO. You don't really see slam KOs like that. And we saw a couple this year, but this one was definitely the best. I had to put this on the list as one of the nominees. Coming in at our next nominee, we got Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. Now, this KO was just something special. The spinning elbows, I feel like a spinning elbow KO is just so rare in MMA today, watching it. And we got to see 2 back-to-back spinning elbows on the same card. Just something of some straight magic. That's why we watch UFC. That's why we're UFC fans, for moments like that. But Lerone Murphy's spinning elbow over Aaron Pico was just, oh my gosh, something of grace. Pico was coming in, trying to get his hands on Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy hits him with a beautiful, boom, spinning elbow, counter spinning elbow, hard, vicious, right on his temple. So brutal. And Aaron Pico has had some bad KO losses. If you look back at his Bellator career, he's been KO'd a couple times, but this one, I'm not really sure that this one is, I'm not sure there's another bad one as worse as this one. Lerone Murphy doesn't get a title shot after a KO like this, I do understand that though, because I hear that Lerone versus Mozart is in the works as a title eliminator fight, but still though, just a crazy performance. Great KO against a newcomer to the UFC. Something you love to see. Best spinning elbow KO I've seen in a minute. All right, coming in at our next nominee spot, we got Ilya versus Charles. Now, Ilya versus Charles. Everybody loves this KO. Everybody loves to post this KO on their freaking TikTok edits, on their KO compilations, on everything. It was a great KO. Yeah, it was awesome. I think it was a good KO. It was just bad right hook, left hook combo. Ilya lands it. I think Ilya is the Francis Ngannou of, the 145-pound, 155-pound division. He just cracks, bro. He's got some crazy power. He hits hard. Just a brutal KO to watch. I don't want to talk about it anymore. He hit him with the right hook, left hook, drops him bad. Doesn't drop him bad. He was dead. Ilya then lands 2 ground and pound shots on his dead, lifeless body before the ref can get over, and then whatever, sips on his tea or does whatever he does. El Matador, beautiful KO. But it's not the KO of the year, because the KO of the year was Rufy versus King Green. Yes, this KO was beautiful, angelic, just looked like it was some straight poetry. The fighting nerds really have blessed us with their fights over the last years, but Rufy, I feel like Rufy is like, people compare him to Conor McGregor. He is like the clean one. He's like the crisp one. He's just going in there throwing clean, one punch knockout shots, and this one was his best. Just a crazy hook, left hook, fake left hook into the spinning wheel kick. Oh my gosh. One of the best KOs we've seen for a long time. We will see in a long time. Definitely took some years off Bobby Green's life. Either way, though, highlight of the ages. One of the best spinning wheel kicks we've seen. You don't really see a spinning wheel kick KO that, it's not that common nowadays. But this one was beautiful. You'll love to see it. Alrighty, guys. We have made it to the last award. It's been a great night of handing out some awards. We've had some crazy upsets. Some not upsets, some non-shockers we knew were going to win. But we're going to end the night with the biggest award, in my opinion, the Fighter of the Year. Yes, Fighter of the Year. Now, with our honorable mentions, we got 2 honorable mentions. We got Islam and Ilya. Now, I wasn't going to put Ilya on this list, but I had to. Becoming double champ, knocking out our boy Charles Oliveira. Quick, with a vicious 2-hook combo, I do wish he would have fought again this year, but I understand he's going through some family issues and stuff, so he'll be back sometime in 2026. But either way, though, becoming a double champ, doing it over Charles Oliveira, it was a great year for Ilia Topuria. And our next honorable mention was Islam. Islam was it was hard not to put Islam on the list, actually. 2-0 on the year, finish over Renato Moicano, become a double champ over JDM. Great year for Islam. A finish and a double champ status. I could totally understand if you had him, in your Fighter of the Year conversation, if not, 2 or 1 or 3, But he's just on my honorable mention because I feel like we do have a couple fighters that had a better year than him. Starting off with our first nominee, we got Petr Yan. Petr Yan, man. Petr Yan. God. Watching Petr Yan fight, everybody's a Petr Yan fan when it comes to watching him fight. 2-0 in the year, getting his leg back over Merab was just something that it brought a tear to all of our MMA fans' eyes. So it's truly inspirational to see Petr Yan come back against Merab. He stuffed 27 out of 29 takedowns, which he did stuff a lot of takedowns in their first fight. But, this fight, he just looked so much crisper, so much cleaner. He was doing the elbows to the forearm, hitting him with good combos, ripping body shots, beautiful body work. That's what really was hurting Merab throughout the whole fight, kicking him to the body. But yeah, watching Yan go 2-0 in the year and watching him get his belt back after a 5-year layoff of not having his belt. You don't really see champs getting their belt back. Especially at the lower weight classes, and watching Yan do it is just something special. I think Yan is, if he can continue to keep building up some title defenses, if he gets a Sean O'Malley title defense, if he gets some other title defenses, then he could be up there with the GOAT conversations, just like Merab is right now. Coming in though, talking about getting the belt back, we got Volkanovski. Volkanovski, Alexander the Great. I know he was only 1-0 on the year, but watching Volk get his belt back this year at the end of January, it was just something beautiful. Like, I don't think that any of us, could do what he did. Coming back from 2 KO losses, like, that's just something special, especially against a young, hungry Diego Lopez. Like, I know he didn't get it back over Ilia Topuria, which would have been greater, but a young, hungry Diego Lopez is just a straight killer. I think Diego Lopez can be champ once Volk's gone. They do have the rematch coming up in January. At the end of January, we'll see how that goes. But I do think that Diego Lopez is at that top of the top level, and Volk getting a win over him, getting dropped by him, coming back, ultimately just winning that fight. It's just something inspirational that we don't really see. We don't really see an older guy coming back winning against the younger guy, especially after 2 brutal KO losses. Volk coming back is just some. If he retired that night, I wouldn't have been upset. It was a great night for Volk, and it was a great night for Volk's fans. We'll see what happens in the rematch. I don't think that Diego Lopez could beat Volk. I just think that Volk is he's just too good. He's just on that level. He is the GOAT. But coming in at our next nominee, we got Merab Dvalishvili. Now, yes, Merab, it was so hard not to give Merab Fighter of the Year. I know a lot of people give Merab their Fighter of the Year. 3 title defenses. I totally understand if you do give it to him, I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like the dude above him deserves it. And I feel like the last card of the year, the last numbered event is really what sealed the deal. If he would have beat Peter Yan 100%, he would be the Fighter of the Year. And I still agree if you put him as Fighter of the Year, just because subbing Sean, beating Corey, beating Umar is absolutely nuts. Merab went from being one of the most hated on champs to the GOAT in a year. And just from pure work, just from outworking everybody, just from fighting 4 times and 4 title defenses. Like, I do think that Merab might take some time off after this loss, just because, the 4 fights in a year is tough, especially when it's 25-minute fights. But still, you cannot deny Merab's level. He went from being one of the most hated on dudes in the UFC to being arguably the GOAT of his division. It's hard to not deny Merab's GOATness. He is one of the best at 135, and but I don't think he's Fighter of the Year because of this dude. The number 1 spot for Fighter of the Year, yes, we got Joshua Van. Now, some people may say, why are you giving it to Joshua Van over Merab? Like, that makes no sense. Joshua Van, he's a great fighter, but still over Merab. Merab had 3 title defenses. Umar, Corey, and Sean. The reason I'm giving it to Joshua Van, 4-0 on the year. He started the year off unranked. Ended the year off as champ. Yeah, I know he didn't win the belt in the way that everybody kind of wanted him to win. It was a terrible, terrible way to win the fight, but that's the fight game. That happens sometimes. We saw that happen with Tom Aspinall when he got eye poked. Sometimes things just happen. And you cannot deny Joshua Van's year. Ending the year as champ, having a Fight of the Year candidate, I just feel like that's what puts him over a dude like Merab. Every time Joshua Van fights, yes, I think Joshua Van, like Merab, everyone became a fan of Merab this year. Everyone became a fan of Joshua Van this year. If Joshua Van is fighting, people are tuning in. Joshua Van is a banger fighter. We love to see him fight. And especially him versus Pantoja. Everyone's going to tune in for that rematch. 100%. I do hope that Pantoja can come back and recover 100%, like get back healthy and get back to the way he was, because I think that Pantoja versus Van is a great fight. I don't know if Van, I think Van does better than the other contenders, but I don't know if Van beats Pantoja. Pantoja's on this GOAT level run, until that happened. Until he broke his elbow or broke his arm. But still, I still think that Joshua Van winning 4 fights in this year, going 4-0 on the year, starting unranked, ending as the champ, Fight of the Year candidate, there's no denying him as the male Fighter of the Year. Give it up for Joshua Van. Give him his props. All right. That is it, guys. That is the end of the awards show. Thank you for sticking through. I appreciate each and every one of you for watching all the way to to the end of this video. I appreciate you watching the awards. If you liked the video, please like it. If you didn't like the video, comment down below some hate. I want to hear it. I want to hear what I can do to improve. I do want to shout out everyone that helped me make this video. I got a great support system behind me. I would not be making this without them. I know that it's a little off right now, and it's just a work in progress. We're going to try and get this thing rolling in 2026. I'm going to try and get interviews out there as soon as possible. I got possibly an interview lined up that I'm going to try and get out there. But just stay tuned. It's a work in progress. We're going to get things going. And I appreciate you all for watching. James Keller MMA. We're out.